Let us now understand about functions in JavaScript. Functions are nothing but it is simply a piece of code that we can reuse over and over again in our entire code. So what I mean by this is if you are writing some program and maybe at one point you are repeating the same code and you just want to generate the same result, then you can easily use function and inside that you can put that block of code. Maybe in another scenario you are using function, entire logic is same but whatever data we are displaying that is different. So in that case also we can use function. So functions are nothing but it is just like a variable, like how in variable we will be assigning value. Similarly, inside functions we will be writing block of code. Functions are building blocks. If you are creating any project in JavaScript, then maybe 90% of the time you will be using functions and you will be repeating the logic. Before going to our analogy example, first let us create a simple function example. Here I will just write function keyword. This is how we declare functions. Functions, function name, let me just write here greetings and we will just close this parenthesis. Open this curly braces. This is how we declare function. Inside this function, I'm just going to display this log and here I will be using template literal. I will write welcome to my channel. Maybe if I am creating any website, I want to display this message multiple times. Instead of writing this log inside function, if I simply write here, maybe in about page I want to display contact page, in multiple pages I want to display, then what I have to do? I have to write the same code. I am getting the result, but still what I am doing? I am repeating my code. Now this is the requirement. You know, this code is repeating multiple times. So what you can do? This entire code you can wrap inside function. I do not have to write multiple times. Directly inside function, I have passed this console. After curly braces, whatever I am writing, this is called as function body. And this is my function declaration. If I save this, I will not be having any result of this function. Why? Because to display any result inside function or to execute any code which is present inside function, we need to call function. How we will be calling? We simply write function name, parenthesis, just like this, save this. Now I will be getting my result. This is how we will be calling function. You can call this as invoking function or else you can also call running function or calling function. You can use all these three names interchangeably. I will write here running, calling or invoking function. Most of the time I will be using calling function. So you can use any one of the name. Using this, what we are doing, we are just executing our function. Inside function, whatever code we have written, that will be executed. Now suppose I just want to display this message in multiple places. Again, I do not have to repeat this console. Directly, I can call this function again. Save. Now 2 times I will be getting my result. Congrats, you have written your first function. We have just done function declaration. I hope you understood the logic why we are using functions in our code. This is just a simple example to show how to declare function and how to call function. Let us understand what all functions can do. Suppose imagine you are having one ice cream machine. Inside that, it is asking for flavors, flavor 1 and flavor 2. Based on the machine logic, it is asking for flavor 1 and flavor 2. First time you are coming and you are giving the input as chocolate and vanilla. So in return, what that machine will be doing? That machine will be giving you the ice cream with the mix of vanilla and chocolate. Next time again you are coming, you are just entering apple and mango. So it will be giving you the combination of apple and mango ice cream. So each and every time what that machine is asking only for the input you are giving and in return machine is giving us the result, that is our ice cream. Similarly, For functions also, we can pass the data and in return, they will be generating or they will be giving us the result back. Just remember functions as a machine. Based on your input, it will be giving us the result. Let us create that. I will just write passing parameters. Again, we will be writing function keyword. I will give my function name ice cream machine. You can give anything. Inside this, I am going to pass parameters. Here, I will be passing parameters and these parameters will be treated as a variable that will be available only inside this function. So, I can just write flavor 1, comma, I can pass multiple parameters, flavor 2, and inside this, I will just display something log. And here inside this, let me just write template literal. I will just write here flavor 1 and flavor 2. I have just written simple log inside this function. While declaring this function, I am just passing two parameters. These parameters you can just assume as a variable. So whenever we call function, we will be giving value to this variable. And how they are getting defined? Only when we call this function, their values will be defined. Let us call this function similar way. How we call this normal function? Same, we will be calling this function. We'll just write this function name. Inside this parenthesis, flavor 1, I will just give here chocolate. And flavor 2, I will give vanilla. I have just passed these two inputs. Now, flavor 1 will be assigned chocolate. Flavor 2 will be assigned vanilla. And when I'm calling this function body will be executed. And now I should be getting the result as your ice cream with chocolate and vanilla flavor. Let me just write here flavor. Now as soon as I save, you can see I got the result. Your ice cream with chocolate and vanilla flavor. But for your sister, she like mango and apple. Combination of mango and apple. I don't know whether it is existing or not, but still mango and apple. For your sister, you have taken mango and apple. So in ice cream machine, you are giving input. Based on your input, machine will be giving you the result, that is ice cream. So similarly, based on our input, function is executing and we are getting our result. And the data which we are passing here, it is called as parameter. And while calling function, the values which we are passing, it is called as argument. Sometimes we might get confused in remembering this parameter and argument. So you can simply think of a movie pa. So while declaring function, first word that is a parameter, and second while calling function we are just passing arguments. So even I remember in this way. In our previous few lecture we have understood functions will be returning value. Now let us see how to return value in function. Return value. I will copy the same function, comment it out, and here I am just going to paste. Now inside this function, we will be using return keyword and we are just returning our value. So instead of displaying this log, so usually we will not be displaying log to user. We will display the message if they are visiting our website. I will remove this log. For this entire string, I will just create one variable. Let ice is equal to this entire variable. Now what this function has to do? If I run this function, I am not going to get any result. If I save this, if I refresh, I will not get any result. Now what I have to do? This ice cream string, I have to return from this function. I will just return ice. Save this. Again, I will not be getting any result. Why? Because this function is returning me some value. Now this value I have to store in one separate variable. So here I am calling this function. When I am calling this function, it is returning me this ice complete string. So what I have to do? I just have to assign this entire value in one variable. I will just write ice1 is equal to, now I just have to display this ice1 log. I will write ice1. Save this. Now I will get my result for this function call. Similarly, if my function is returning value, whenever I am calling this function, I have to assign this value to one variable. Again, I will create let is2 is equal to, and while displaying, I just have to log this is2. Now save. Again, I will be getting the result. I hope you understood this concept, how to use return keyword. Whatever final result we are getting, we are just returning that final result. And it is nothing but a value. So after calling that value, we have to store in one variable. And finally, we are just logging that variable. One important thing you should remember, as soon as we reach this return, after this, whatever code we are having, that will not be executed. After this, if I simply write here log, I will just write here hello. Save this, it is not going to execute. This log will not be executed. If I just hover on this, you will see unreachable code detected. After return, function is returning the value. After that, it will not execute code. I will remove that. Just remember this parameter as empty spaces. While just declaring the string, we are just leaving empty space. Once calling the function, that empty space we are filling with these values. This is how functions are important. When you start creating your applications, you will understand real power of functions. If you are having a question, can we log this ice? Of course, you can log this. You can log this ice without returning ice. You can simply log ice. Then also you are going to get the same result. But if you want some value from the function, then you should return something so that we can store in separate variables. But whatever code we are having inside the function, to execute that, at least one we need to call this function. If you are not calling this function, then it is waste of writing this function. If you are not using this block of code in your program, then simply don't write this function. If you are writing, then call the function, execute the result. Because function processing can only happen when it is called or invoked. When I come to first function, inside this I have not passed any parameters, and while calling I am not passing any argument. So that is also possible. It is not necessary that every function has to pass parameters and arguments. Maybe some places you just want to display messages. So in that case, you can use function without passing any parameters or arguments. Now for this, I am not having any parameter. Here if I just pass any argument, I will not be having any effect. I will not get any error as well. Directly, it is just going to ignore this. To take away from this, not all function has to accept parameters and generate result, and also not all function need to return value. You can simply log and you can display the result. Even if you don't use a return keyword, if you simply want to display the message, then without return keyword, you can easily execute the function. But in any case, if you want to store value of that function to any variable, that time you have to use return keyword. Functions like without parameters or without any return value, we will be using only when we need some block of code to be executed multiple times. So that kind of function will not be having anything to do with return keyword. They will just display the message, but they will not be generating any error. So as a conclusion, we can simply say functions allow us to write more maintainable code, because with functions we can create reusable chunks of code instead of manually writing the same code again and again. And when you see function, there is one important principle behind that, that is our drive. Do not repeat yourself. We should not repeat our code when we are building any application. So that is the reason functions are implemented, and they are best used in cases where you do not want to repeat the code. If I simply show you one more function, this is our built-in function console log. Inside that we are passing different result. Based on that, it is displaying message in our console. So in JavaScript, we are having predefined function. We are just giving our values. Based on that, it will be giving us the result. Next lecture, we will understand more about function. We have seen function declaration. Next lecture, we will see How to use function expression.